did want to get a notable anniversary in our show because let's stick with the Lakers. The late, great Kobe Bean Bryant. On this date in 2005, Kobe dropped 62 in 3 quarters against the Mavericks. So Ramona, what was the buzz like around that performance when he did that back in 2005?
I mean, he was just doing that every night that season. Do you remember, like, every night it was like, oh, he got 50. I could see. But this was in 3 quarters. 3 quarters.
I wasn't doing that every night.
And you know what? Like, I understood why he didn't play in the 4th quarter because they were up, and it was, you know, you have some sports.
Yeah.
He's still upset about it. He was upset about that. I mean, he would have wanted to see how much he can get, but you know, he ended up getting 81 later.
Yeah.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, back again. Marlo knows basketball and Marlo knows boxing. Back at y'all with another one. All this talk over the last week or so has got me to thinking. It's got me to thinking, you know, of course, everybody knows that Bam Adebayo, with the help of the referees, Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat, surpassed Kobe for second all-time most points in a game with 83 points. And of course, Kobe scored 81 points back in 2006. But that got me to thinking about that 2006 season, that 2005-2006 season, where Kobe averaged over 35 points a game. I vividly remember that season. Kobe was going off every game, it seemed. It seemed every other game, Kobe was scoring 40 or 50 points. And that 81-point game wasn't even his best game that season. That was not his best scoring game that season. The main reason why that was not his best game that season is because it came against the Toronto Raptors, who of course were only 27 and 55 that season. They were not a good team. They were not a playoff team. They were pretty bad. It is a notable game because they needed Kobe to score those 81 points to bring them back, or they would have lost if he didn't go off like that. So they needed him to do that. But the fact that it was against a bad team, to me, takes brownie points away from that 81-point game. Kobe's best game that season was actually against the Dallas Mavericks, where he scored 62 points in 3 quarters. And the quality of the team that you do this against matters. Scoring 62 points in 3 quarters is a feat within itself. And I know a lot of people would say, well, Klay Thompson did that. James Harden did that. James Harden did it against a terrible team. He did it against a team that wasn't even a playoff team. I believe it was the Orlando Magic, if I'm not mistaken. Klay Thompson did it against the Indiana Pacers, who were 42 and 40, barely over 500. They barely made the playoffs and got smacked in the first round and got swept. So they weren't good either. But when Kobe did it, he did it against a 60-win Dallas Mavericks team. Not only did the Dallas Mavericks win 60 games, the Dallas Mavericks came out the West that year and went to the NBA Finals. So when Kobe scored his 62 points in 3 quarters, he did it against a team that made it to the NBA Finals that year. So that's one big, huge reason why his 62 points in 3 quarters was way better than James Harden and Klay Thompson doing it in 3 quarters, because he did it against an NBA Finals team. They did it against a mediocre team and a terrible team. And in my opinion, just as big of a reason as the quality of the opponent and the Dallas Mavericks being so good that year, a 60-win team, an NBA Finals team, Kobe also became the only player in NBA history to outscore an entire team by himself through 3 quarters. When Kobe scored his 81 points, at the time, it was the second most points scored in an NBA game. Of course, Wilt's 100 was the most. But when Kobe scored 62 points on Dallas in 3 quarters, he became the only player, number 1, numero uno, the only player in NBA history to outscore an entire team by himself through 3 quarters. Even Wilt Chamberlain never did that. Whenever you would hear people, the Kobe haters, whenever they would hear about that 81 points game, they would always talk about how terrible the Raptors were. And my first response would be, well, he scored 62 points against Dallas in 3 quarters. The only player in history to outscore an entire team by himself through 3 quarters. Dallas was a really good team, a 60-win team, a team that went to the NBA Finals. And every single time that I would bring up the Dallas Mavericks game and what Kobe did to them, the haters would have no response. They would talk about how terrible Toronto was, but as soon as I bring up that Dallas game, they had nothing to say. And that let me know right there that Dallas Mavericks game, when Kobe scored that 62 points on them in 3 quarters, becoming the only player to outscore an entire team by himself through 3 quarters, that the fact that the haters have no response to it, that let me know a long time ago that 62 points in 3 quarters against Dallas was way better than that 81-point game that Kobe had. And that game made a believer out of Dirk Nowitzki. Ever since then, Dirk Nowitzki has been on record many a times saying that Kobe Bryant, not LeBron James, Kobe Bryant is the best player that he's ever played against.
Kobe was the best player that I've ever played against. He outscored our entire Mavs team by himself. I think we had 61 or 62, and he had 63. I mean, we threw everything at us, double team, triple teamed him. I mean, he was going 1-on-4 in the break, throwing stuff up, and I said he could have easily scored 80. And then 2 or 3 weeks later is when he scored 81 on Toronto. From the field.